Yeah, today is July 26, 2015. I got my Scientists and Inventors book again. And I'm just looking at Charles Robert Darwin, 1809 to 1882. Read a little bit for you. When the amateur naturalist and geologist Charles Darwin published on the origin of species, he did more than just overturn current biological beliefs. The theory of evolution by natural selection had resounding effects on philosophical and religious thinking, and paved the way for the modern sciences of ecology, anthropology, and genetics. He was born in Shrewsbury, Shropshire, the son of a doctor. His maternal grandfather was the industrialist and potter Hosea Wedgwood, and his paternal grandfather was the scientist and philosopher Erasmus Darwin. Among leading men of science, however, Darwin was a notorious late developer. He was rebuked by the headmaster for wasting time on such trivial pastimes as collecting plants, birds' eggs, and minerals. Basically, in 1931, he accepted an invitation to be an honorary naturalist on the round-the-world expedition in the government survey ship the Beagle. The Beagle sailed first to the Cape Verde Islands, then on towards South America. In Brazil, he walked in the rainforests, and near Bahia Blanca he found his first fossil, the skull of the extinct giant sloth called Megatherium. For 3 years, the ships cruised back and forth along the coast of South America, gathering data, while Darwin made geological and biological observations and records, and collected specimens of every kind, so he was a big collector. It's something that I also like to do myself, but I don't really have the funds to do so. Hopefully one day I will. In 1835, the Beagle landed in the Galapagos Islands. The 4 weeks spent there were the most significant of the expedition. Darwin noted that on the Galapagos there were around 14 species of finch, each species having adapted to a particular form of feeding. The seed eaters had powerful parrot-like beaks, finer beaks more suited, parrot-like beaks, while the insect feeders had sharper, finer beaks more suited to stabbing at their prey. These important differences between obviously related species seem to indicate that one species had given rise to several others. There were comparable differences between the tortoises of each island. Okay. On his return to Britain in October 1836, Darwin began to synthesize a theory to explain how one species could change or evolve into another. Theories of evolution had been put forward before, most notably by the French biologist Jean-Baptiste Lamarck, who believed that animals and plants acquired and passed on characteristics in response to conditions they encountered. However, the predominant belief of the time was in the immutability of the species, each species being the direct result of divine creation. And here's what stuck out to me. Darwin began a series of notebooks called The Transmutation of the Species. He noted that in areas separate by geographical or physical barriers such as the Galapagos, there existed related but different species. Meanwhile, animals in different geographical regions had adapted in similar ways. This was most striking in Australasia, where the marsupials such as the Tasmanian wolf and spiny anteater had developed along similar lines to higher mammals elsewhere. In addition, the fossils which Darwin had collected resembled existing species. And there he is. I mean, there's more to it. I'm not going to read the entire thing. I'll save more of this talk for what I noticed. I wish I could be alive, or I wish Darwin could be alive today to see how far we've come with, genetics, DNA, how much we know about the human body, how much we know about animals. Man, he'd just have a field day. So many things that he'd be like, holy cow, this is incredible. And, talk about collecting rocks and minerals. I mean, we have moon rocks that we've collected. It's pretty incredible stuff. But one thing I noticed is a parallel between Darwin and myself. The idea of species transmuting into different kinds of things over very long periods of time is something that resonates with my own theory of stellar metamorphosis, meaning you have a young hot star, very homogeneous and radiative on the surface, and it cools, dies, and shrinks and solidifies and undergoes a transmutation or a metamorphosis. That's what I call the theory. So the transmutation of species is the kind of mentality that Darwin had. He had that evolving type way of looking at things. Things change over time. And as well, I also have that evolving type mentality where I understand that stars change over very long periods of time into things that are completely different in almost every single way. Size, their mass, their diameter, their composition, whether or not they shine. And to look at the stars as a transmutation, which is, Anthony Abruzzo's his take on it, but I chose metamorphosis because it also was directly related to the evolution of life itself. And that's something that Operin wanted to show, and that's why Miller and Urey did their experiment with the inorganic substances becoming organic substances, the amino acids. And basically that mindset of things constantly evolving and changing over time to where they look incredibly different than what is observed in the night sky. Now, to really get that across to astronomers that stars themselves can evolve greatly to where they're indistinguishable as a star would be to break them out of their shell of closed-minded thinking, all stars have spectrums, all stars shine, all stars are big and hot, to maybe we're wrong and stars actually evolve, transmutate, or undergo metamorphosis to the point to where they are no longer recognizable as stars, similar to, things that evolve. If we branched off from ape-like creatures many millions of years ago, and we don't really, resemble them too much anymore. I mean, yeah, sure, we have appendages and a large brain and that kind of stuff, but for the most part, they change over very long periods of time. And I would love for astronomers and geologists to kind of like put their heads together to realize the obvious facts of nature, is that things are always evolving, always changing. And if they can just take their minds out of that little box-like mentality that they were conditioned to in graduate school, we might actually be able to make some serious progress inside of the star sciences and inside of the earth sciences and biology and chemistry and all that combined. Alright, I think that's enough. Yeah, look, he even has the hands. See, check out the hands that as they evolve over time, they change for different uses and whatnot. I would, consider A to be like a young hot star, and then eventually it transmutes into, a star that actually hosts life. But, alright, everybody take it easy. Look up your boy Darwin, pretty smart fellow. Later.